Penway's king, George VI, proved his love for Queen Elizabeth II through royal jewels. There are fathers who say "I love you" every morning. There are fathers who say it at graduations, at weddings, at hospital bedsides. And then there was King George VI, a man who stammered through public speeches, who never wanted the crown, who carried the weight of an empire on lungs that were quietly failing him, and who said everything he could never quite speak aloud through sapphires, pearls and diamonds. He had 6 years left to live when his daughter married. He knew his health was deteriorating, and in those 6 years, he gave her more than jewels. He gave her armour. This is that story. And one of these gifts contained something so personal that it only surfaced decades after both of them were gone. The Victorian Sapphire Suite. In November 1947, as Princess Elizabeth prepared to marry Prince Philip at Westminster Abbey, her father made a decision that said everything about the kind of man he was. He did not reach into the royal vaults, he went shopping. King George VI personally commissioned Carrington & Company to source an antique Victorian sapphire and diamond suite, a necklace and matching earrings dating to the 1850s, nearly a century old, with a history as layered as the stones themselves. The deep cornflower sapphires were set in elaborate diamond surrounds, the craftsmanship unmistakably mid-Victorian, intricate, warm, and built to last generations. Why antique? Because George VI understood something about his daughter that the world was still learning. Elizabeth was not drawn to flash. She was drawn to meaning. A piece with a century of history behind it would speak to her in a way a brand new commission never could. When she received it, those close to the family reported she was visibly moved, not by its considerable financial value, but by the evidence of his thought. He had chosen sapphires deliberately. They were her favourite stone. He had always known that. She wore the suite throughout her life, at state occasions, on tours, during sittings for official portraits. Not as an obligation, as a preference. The rare fact, this suite now forms part of what historians call the sapphire inheritance, a deliberate pattern of bluestone gifts from her father that Elizabeth would return to, again and again, across 70 years of public life. It was not accidental. It was a father encoding his favourite colour into his daughter's wardrobe, permanently. And what he gave her 2 years before the wedding would prove he'd been planning this kind of devotion long before a single engagement was announced. The Cartier sapphire and diamond bracelet. In 1944, Princess Elizabeth turned 18. Britain was still at war. Buckingham Palace had been bombed 9 times. Rationing was in its 5th year. And King George VI walked into Cartier. The bracelet he commissioned was extraordinary in its restraint. A slim, elegant line of sapphires and diamonds in Cartier's signature platinum setting, each blue stone selected for depth of colour, and set between brilliant cut diamonds that made the sapphires glow rather than merely glitter. It was a piece of jewellery that understood its wearer. Not showy, not excessive, but unmistakably, quietly magnificent. He gave it to his 18-year-old daughter not as a future queen, but as his child becoming a woman. That distinction mattered to him. Elizabeth received it with what those who attended the private birthday observed as genuine surprise. She had not expected something of this calibre for a birthday conducted in wartime. The surprise, those present noted, gave way almost immediately to something quieter, the particular emotion of being truly seen by someone who loves you. She wore it frequently throughout her life and reign. It appears in photographs across multiple decades, always chosen for occasions that required something personal rather than ceremonial. Not the great state tiaras, not the inherited diamonds. This one, the one her father chose before she was anything other than his daughter. The rare fact almost no one knows, Cartier's London records from the wartime period show extraordinary restraint in commissions during 1940 to 1945. George VI's order stood out. He was not a man who spent extravagantly. This bracelet was a deliberate exception. What he did next, just 3 years later, would involve a piece of jewellery he didn't even purchase, and it would mean more to Elizabeth than almost anything money could buy. The 1923 Garter Star. In 1947, the same year as her wedding, King George VI appointed Princess Elizabeth as a Lady of the Order of the Garter, the oldest and most senior order of chivalry in Britain, founded in 1348. He could have presented her with a newly crafted Garter Star, as protocol permitted. Instead, he gave her his own, the star he had received in 1923, worn throughout his own investiture, carried through the abdication crisis, through the coronation he never sought, through the Blitz. A Garter Star is not a small thing. It is a diamond-set badge of the highest order of honour in the British system, 8 points radiating from a central Garter motto in blue enamel, Honi soit qui mal y pense. Shame on him who thinks evil of it. Crafted in silver and set with diamonds, it carries the weight of centuries of tradition in every facet. But this one carried something more. It was his years, his survival, his reign. Elizabeth's reaction to receiving her father's personal star, the one he had worn, was, by accounts of those present, one of the most genuinely emotional responses she displayed publicly in her early life. She was not a woman who cried easily. Those who were there said she came very close. She wore it at the Garter ceremonies that followed for the rest of her life. Always her father's star, not a replacement. His. The rare fact, this act of giving his own star rather than ordering a new one, was almost without precedent in modern royal history. It was not required. It was not even expected. It was entirely a choice, one that said, I want you to carry something that has been through everything I have been through. What he gave her next required no diamonds at all. And it arrived on the most joyful day of her adult life, the birth of her first child. The pearl necklace. This is the gift that took 18 years to complete. Royal tradition held that a father added a single pearl to a strand for each birthday of his daughters. King George VI did not treat this as administrative obligation. He treated it as ceremony. Every year on Elizabeth's birthday, a pearl was selected, not simply added, but chosen. The strand grew through her childhood, through the war years, through her engagement, through the years when his health began its quiet, terrible decline. By the time the necklace was complete, it held the accumulated weight of every year her father had been present for. The pearls he selected were of exceptional quality, perfectly matched in size and lustre, a single strand of what royal jewellers described as near-flawless natural pearls. The clasp, added when the necklace was complete, was set with diamonds. Elizabeth wore it on her wedding day. Beneath the veil, above the Hartnell gown, around the throat of the woman about to become a wife, was a necklace her father had been building since she was a child. She never stopped wearing it. It appears in photographs throughout her reign, chosen for occasions that required warmth rather than grandeur. The rare fact, in the official wedding photographs, the pearl necklace is visible at the neck, but what most people don't know is that she was initially going to wear another piece to the ceremony. She changed her mind that morning. The pearl necklace won. Her father's 18 years of patience worn to her own wedding. The next gift involved a jewel from one of the most celebrated private collections in Edwardian England, and it came with a history that made Elizabeth's eyes widen. The ruby and diamond necklace. Among the wedding gifts King George VI and Queen Elizabeth presented to their daughter in 1947 was a ruby and diamond necklace from the collection of Dame Margaret Greville, one of the great Edwardian hostesses, whose jewellery collection was considered among the finest assembled by a private individual in the 20th century. Greville had been a close friend of the royal family and had bequeathed significant pieces to the Queen Mother on her death in 1942. This necklace, a rich sculptural piece with deep red rubies set among brilliant cut diamonds, was selected from that bequest and presented to Princess Elizabeth as a wedding gift, effectively passing it down a generation with full royal intention. The design was magnificent. Rubies of extraordinary colour depth, each stone selected for its particular warmth, set in an elaborate diamond framework that made the necklace as much sculpture as jewellery. Elizabeth wore it at significant formal occasions throughout her reign. It was not an everyday piece. Its richness demanded the right setting. But when she chose it with full awareness of its history. It connected her to a woman she had known as a child, to her mother's grief at Greville's passing, and to her father's deliberate act of passing something precious forward rather than keeping it. The rare fact, the Greville collection was so significant that several major auction houses had approached the estate before the bequest was known. That Elizabeth received pieces from it was not accidental royal housekeeping. Her parents made specific selections. They chose what they thought she should have. What came next was not about precious stones at all, and yet it became one of the pieces she reached for most. The Greville festoon necklace. Also from the Greville bequest, and also presented as a wedding gift by her parents, was the festoon diamond necklace, a sweeping architectural piece of extraordinary diamond craftsmanship. The festoon design, looping diamond swags descending from a central point, was one of the most technically demanding settings in Edwardian jewellery. The Greville piece exemplified it. Brilliant cut diamonds arranged in a falling pattern that moved with extraordinary light performance, every stone selected and positioned to create the impression of liquid diamond in motion. George VI specifically included this piece in the wedding gifts because he understood something that would take the public decades to recognise. His daughter was going to need jewellery at the level of heads of state, not as vanity, as language. On the world stage, a sovereign's jewels communicate power, permanence, and legitimacy. He was arming her. Elizabeth wore the festoon necklace at state occasions of the highest order throughout her reign. It held its place in the royal collection as one of the most architecturally striking pieces she owned. The rare fact, when the Greville collection pieces arrived, there was a private selection process. The Queen Mother made the final choices of what to pass to her daughter. King George VI's role was to agree, and according to those with knowledge of the household, he agreed immediately and without reservation to every piece his wife selected for Elizabeth. His trust in his daughter's capacity to carry these jewels was absolute. The gift that came next, however, was not about capacity or legacy, it was about joy, the purest kind. The flower basket brooch. On November 14th, 1948, Princess Elizabeth gave birth to Prince Charles. King George VI, who had spent much of the preceding year watching his daughter navigate the demands of imminent queenship alongside new marriage, commissioned a brooch. The flower basket brooch was everything its name suggested and more. A delicate basket form in gold and platinum, set with diamonds and coloured stones arranged as flowers, each bloom precisely placed in a composition of extraordinary botanical detail. It was not a grand statement piece. It was a celebration in miniature, intricate, warm, and completely personal. He and the Queen Mother gave it to Elizabeth to mark the birth of her first child. She wore it in the first official photographs taken with the infant Prince Charles. The brooch is visible against her jacket, bright, celebratory, entirely incongruous with the serious business of monarchy, and entirely appropriate for a mother holding her new son. She returned to it throughout her life. It became, in the language of those who catalogued her collection, a personal piece, chosen for family occasions rather than state ones. A father's celebration of his daughter's joy, worn to the moments that reminded her of that joy. The rare fact, the timing of the commission tells you something. George VI ordered the brooch after Charles was born, not before. He waited to see the child. He waited to know all was well. And then he ordered something that said, "This is happiness and I want you to wear it." The next gift was one he had been preparing in a sense since the moment she was born, and it would arrive in the form of something he passed from his own body. The diamond Riviere necklace. Among the pieces that moved through the family collection under George VI's deliberate stewardship was a diamond Riviere necklace, a classic single-strand line of graduated brilliant cut diamonds in the purest form of the Riviere design. No coloured stones, no ornamentation, simply diamonds of exceptional quality, arranged in ascending size to the central stone, the line unbroken and perfectly proportioned. George VI had this piece worn at his coronation in 1937, and its passage through the family thereafter was managed with the same careful intentionality that characterised all his decisions about the collection. Elizabeth would wear a Riviere necklace of this nature throughout her reign for occasions requiring the most formal diamond presentation. The clean, unbroken line of the Riviere, its very simplicity, communicated exactly what he intended, that his daughter was and would be prepared. The rare fact, the Riviere design, by its nature, is the most democratic of diamond settings. It places the stones themselves absolutely central, with no setting to distract or compensate. A Riviere necklace is only as good as its diamonds. That George VI ensured Elizabeth had access to a piece of this calibre was a quiet statement about what he believed she deserved. The real thing, always, without compromise. The final two gifts are perhaps the most quietly devastating of all, because one of them she chose herself, under her father's specific instruction, and the other was not a jewel at all. The Nizam of Hyderabad. In 1947, His Exalted Highness the Nizam of Hyderabad, then the wealthiest man in the world, gifted Princess Elizabeth a wedding present of extraordinary scale, a necklace and tiara of diamonds so exceptional that the collection was valued at what would today represent millions. But here is the part no one tells you. Before the final pieces were selected and mounted, King George VI arranged for his daughter to visit Cartier to have significant input into how the Nizam's gift was configured and presented. He did not have a courtier make the selection. He did not defer to protocol. He took his daughter's preferences seriously, her taste, her judgment, her eye, and ensured she had genuine agency in what would become one of the most spectacular pieces in her collection. The resulting necklace, a fringe design of exceptional diamond craftsmanship, became one of Elizabeth's most significant pieces. She wore it at her coronation in 1953. But the gift, in this context, was not the diamonds. The gift was her father saying, "Your judgment is sound. I trust it. Choose." For a woman about to inherit the full weight of constitutional monarchy, that trust was not a small thing. It was preparation of the most loving kind. The rare fact, the Nizam tiara and necklace became interchangeable. The necklace could be converted to form part of the tiara. This transformability was, in part, a result of the Cartier consultation her father arranged. She'd asked for versatility. She got it. And then, with time running out in ways he could feel but never quite said aloud, he gave her one final thing. The flame lily brooch. Of all the gifts documented here, this one occupies a singular place. The flame lily brooch was presented to Princess Elizabeth in 1947, crafted by the children of southern Rhodesia from Zimbabwean gold, each petal painstakingly shaped to replicate the flame lily, the national flower, its curling golden petals set with diamonds at the centre. It was not made by Cartier or Garrard. It was not selected from a great collection. It was made by schoolchildren who pooled their resources to honour a princess they had never met. King George VI ensured Elizabeth received it directly, and that it was understood, within the household, as something distinct from the great state pieces and the inherited diamonds. It was hers, not the monarchy's, not the collection's, hers. Elizabeth understood the distinction immediately. She was moved by the brooch in a way that those present described as unguarded, a less managed response than she typically allowed in semi-public settings. It was the gift of ordinary people, secured to her by her father's care, and it represented something the sapphire suites and diamond festoons could not. She wore the flame lily brooch on her first official tour of southern Rhodesia. She wore it when she returned. She wore it across 60 years to places connected to the Commonwealth and the people who had made it. The rare fact, among the royal family, this brooch carried a quiet internal significance beyond its public appearances. It was the first piece Elizabeth ever received that was described, within the household, as belonging to her personally, not to the crown. Her father made certain of that framing. He gave her a jewel that was entirely, irrevocably her own. He was a dying man when most of these gifts were given. His lungs were failing. The arteriosclerosis that would kill him in February 1952 was already advancing. He gave sapphires because they were her favourite. He gave pearls one birthday at a time across 18 years. He gave her his own Garter Star because he wanted her to carry something that had been through everything he had endured. He gave her armour and history and joy and trust and a small gold brooch made by children, the knowledge that love does not require magnificence to be real. King George VI died at Sandringham on the morning of February 6, 1952. He was 56 years old. His daughter was 25. She wore his sapphires to the end of her life.